I don't know why I haven't uploaded in over 2 weeks and I barely played the game. Elden Ring. Also life, I went out with my friends for a week, and I guess that's also the state of the game. It's quite empty if I'm being honest, and there isn't just much reason for me to log on. You know, I don't really want to log on for some random okay solo LMG that I have all year to get, just because it's my only decent solo LMG option. That there's probably going to be another one later in the year. Or avoid Trace Rifle that is basically useless because I have the Haunted one and because it has lit from gold and the other one doesn't. There's literally no point. I also don't really get why I would have run the mission for anything other than quest progress if it's just an auto rifle that can be a shotgun. I literally don't get why it's even in the game, honestly, other than just being a funny reference to the crafting. So there's no real reason for me to play PvE, and PvP, as usual, has a lot of problems, which could honestly just be its own video, but I don't want to go into a control match, find out it's 2-3 stacks, or maybe even an entire 6 stack. Find out then most of them are on controller, or worse, console, because I'm on PC and I want to play over keyboard and mouse players, thank you very much. And then they have the worst connections I've seen in a modern video game because of peer-to-peer, and trust me, they're awful when I'm saying it's worse than Elden Ring invaders, because I've had the Taunter's tongue on my entire run and they've been actually awful. Then also have to deal with whatever bloody classes they're running, which can honestly be anything from two float or locks, one swaying his life away over a rose or a fire bow, literally spinning around in the air over Yakura's dash because he's so afraid of his 0.9 KD dropping in control. And there's probably another one at the top of the map with Igneous or like a scout rifle or something, because of course. And obviously there's going to be an astrocyte lock, because why would there not be an astrocyte lock? Then there's going to be probably, I don't know, Prismatic Titan, who still hasn't catched on that Hunter is the meta at the moment. And he's probably just running Diamond Lance, Knockout, Amplified and Radiant all on the same build, because you can do that. With the funny axes, because for some reason they thought it'd be okay to make a super where you can get 3 pretty easy one-shots, and then get an extra 3 more one-shots that are just as easy to get as the first 3. Oh, and also anyone can pick them up. And then there's the topic of the video, Prismatic Hunter, where they'll obviously be running Slow Dodge, Clone, Swarm Nade, Smoke Bomb, and the most stupid super ever introduced, being Storm's Edge. And I've wanted to talk about this subclass for a while, because they give us the most fun subclass and everyone just seems to use the same boring, unfun, broken setup like always. And admittedly, it's very broken no matter what you do with it, but that's just prismatic, isn't it? However, before I complain about people, my worst enemy, Bungie announced some changes that I believe don't fix why Prismatic Hunter is actually broken. And considering they only announced these on a side account on Twitter, which linked to a Reddit post or a Discord server, I doubt really any of you actually know what they are, so I'll read them out as usual. It also gives them a video link, but that part's not to be discussed. Firstly, Threaded Spectre now has an increased dodge cooldown when equipped. They have removed the cooldown penalty after making a clone. If the clone is destroyed by an attack, then it will no longer spawn Threadlings, and they've increased the time it will distract nearby combatants before exploding. So, basically less clones and no more Threadlings at all, because you can literally just shoot it immediately. So, 1. Assuming I'm reading this correctly, it basically just kills clones in PvE, because these changes apply to both PvE and PvP. So if they no longer make Threadlings by being shot at, basically what is even the point at all of running them? They distract enemies, but literally what is the point of that when we have every single form of healing in the game literally in our back pockets at all times? So again, clones that were not great already are basically just completely dead. And in PvP, this doesn't really fix the problem, as clones weren't really a problem anymore anyway, on their own. Which is insane. The problem is running it with slow, because you get basically a free 60 damage after the last nerf, which is why further cooldown nerf, or maybe even just reducing the slow range when you're using the clone, would have honestly made a lot more sense. Since the last set of nerfs as well, there has not been a single time where I've died to just the clone on its own, apart from when just being stupid and walking straight into it. And there is a point to the radar manipulation argument, however that is a really easy issue to work around, and I'll probably go into that a bit more when talking about spec bombs.
They did say in episode 2 though that they would be buffing the clone's damage by 33%. However, I just don't really think that's going to fix the problem they're now going to have with them in PvE. So now on to swarm grenades. They will now have their cooldown increased by 15%, and they will also be moved to a slower recharge tier, so mods will benefit them less. Also in episode 2 they'll be easy to shoot and will chain detonate nearby munitions, which is actually quite a good change. However, I don't really think this fixes the issue at all. The issue with swarm grenades is that they will for some reason track you literally across the map upon being activated. And they will also deal most of your health with Scorch, so you learn how to paused regen, and they will also last on the map for ages and have a very low cooldown. So, instead of fixing probably the most negligible part of swarm grenades, maybe nerf something like the Scorch stopping all health regen, or them dealing quite a significant chunk of your health bar, or just making it so they don't track you as much. That would be the easiest solution, I feel. So yeah, I feel we're 2 for 2 on changes that I just don't think are very good. So what about smoke bombs? Yeah, I don't think it's a very good change. They're honestly not at all. The change is they've reduced the time smoke bombs linger in the world from 10 seconds to 3.5 seconds. And they've also reduced the movement speed penalty when inside the smoke of a smoke bomb by 25%. The movement speed penalty being decreased is great, since that's always been annoying with smokes, so it's nice for them to be a bit less annoying to get stuck in. The problem is the smoke bomb lingering being nerfed. Now, radar manipulation is a very powerful thing in Destiny, because as much as you might disagree, your spatial awareness is most likely entirely based on the radar being in your top corner at all times. So I could see why they'd give it a slight nerf, especially with Kepris, which is what I use, giving you basically 80% back per smoke, and if people discovered that, it would be kind of an issue. So, you know, I would probably nerf it to 7.5, maybe 5 seconds, that seems fair, but 3.5 is basically enough to do nothing, honestly. I don't know if it's been realized yet, but most people aren't even using the smoke properly. They're using it to wombo combo with storm grenades because it has venom and smoke again, which makes it very good for grenade comboing. However, could you not just remove venom and smoke against players, or again just slightly nerf it instead of basically butchering it? Radar manipulation also isn't particularly that hard to deal with, assuming you know how to actually play video games. It's literally just people who only look at the radar and nothing else that really have a problem with it, because they have no spatial awareness. Just to say it bluntly. You can very easily tell when something is a smoke or a clone by it just staying still on the radar, because players don't do that. As long as you're paying attention, you basically shouldn't really be getting caught out by these things. And even when you do, just don't be an idiot and go sliding into it with a shotgun. You can always just pick it up from distance or ignore it and reposition. There's so many ways to get around radar manipulation by just playing slightly smarter than running around with a shotgun all the time. It's actually just infuriating to see these get nerfed to something that wasn't even actually nerfing Prismatic Hunter, but honestly just Void Hunter is now one of the best pieces of their kits, has now been decimated as I keep saying, 3.5 seconds isn't particularly long enough to make a play considering the pace of games that we currently have. So yeah, 3 for 3 on changes that don't really nerf Prismatic Hunter in PvP like they're supposed to, which is lovely. And it's honestly quite disappointing as well, because Prismatic Hunter is the most fun subclass in the game. I just think everyone is too boring and needs to hug meta all the time to actually start experimenting with it. And let me explain. Since the 3.0s have been released, we've had the most customization in our subclasses we've had since Destiny 1, where we had the ability to literally just use any combination of the available options, which is similar to what we have now. However, all of these have had the same problem where people would just pick the objectively best option because why not? There's zero consequences to. Because of this, I assume Bungie decided to put more niche aspects into Prismatic alongside very specific grenades and melees. You know, mainly being the most iconic ones or whatever's actually available. However, the problem is that they didn't add any drawbacks to using certain combinations together. In fact, you honestly just get buffed for it, if anything. Using Fretted Spectre and Winter's Shroud, for example, not only gives you a dodge that would spawn a radar ping, barricade that deals 60 damage on explosion and spawns fretlings, but also allows you to slow, which basically guarantees the Fretted Spectre hit, can give your melee back if you use a Gambler's Dodge, and gives you an extra fragment slot so you can have the maximum possibilities for stats and building everything else up in your build. Then once again, what can be considered some of the best PvP abilities in the game currently on that Prismatic set, and just coming out of SBMM recently, which as far as I can tell is what's basically caused everyone to become so addicted to using the meta gear all the time, even more so than they used to, as fighting players on your level or above 24/7 is going to track the average player to using better weapons and gear, eventually in order to keep up with everyone else. And again, it's honestly very disappointing. As just going off the curve slightly and setting yourself up with radar manipulation and making a sort of strand void setup like my prismatic builders with Khepri's Sting is incredibly fun and fixes too many of my problems with the game because just generally people are again too trusting of their radar. But that build is basically going to get shattered with these changes instead of the main problems with the subclass, like Swarm Grenade, like slowing clones, like Storm's Edge, the most broken super in the game that for some reason gives you free Destiny 1 Fist of Havocs that can teleport across the map and hit you even if you're not within its radius, or if it just teleports past you, because of course. So yeah, here's to hoping Bungie gives us more prismatic abilities in Revenant that replace the ones that are getting nerfed, so I don't have to go back to running Strand Hunter and dealing with Silkstrike. Also that they actually nerf Prismatic Hunter correctly. Until then, if you enjoyed my little ramble, like, comment, sub, and I will see you in the next video. Whenever I actually decide to post that, probably next season. Adios!